a huge recall from GM where they're recalling, I think, millions of their cars, and it's just so predictable when government takes over any industry or any business. Whoops! We made a whole bunch of mistakes that we didn't tell you about for a few years, and you could die in one of our cars. Um, it shouldn't surprise anyone who's been following the behavior of government, but there's just a lot to talk about as far as peaceful resistance, plus the Peacekeeper app will be coming out for Android this month. How's it been going for you iPhone users? Have you been using the app? I want to know about it. If you're not already downloaded it, if you have an iPhone, check it out, peacekeeper.org, or just look in the App Store for an app called Peacekeeper. So uh, we'll get right into the first story, which is peaceful resistance of the woman who refuses to show her breasts to a police officer. This from thefreethoughtproject.com via alternate.org in Little Rock. A city cop in Arkansas chased a woman through her workplace, shooting a taser at her because because she refused to show him her breasts, the woman claims in court. Ashley Bennett sued the city of Haskell, Arkansas, and its police officer Brandon Carter in federal court. Well, good for her for going on the offense, for taking an aggressive stance, at least in a peaceful resistance type way. She's taking an aggressive stance in court, saying Carter, quote, demanded that she expose her breasts to him after she entered her workplace while on duty and wearing his uniform. Quote, Carter's demands to the plaintiff expose herself to him occurred multiple times, she says in the lawsuit. It continues, quote, that the plaintiff refused to show her breasts to Carter, that upon her refusal, Carter drew his City of Haskell issued electroshock taser weapon from his utility belt, pointed the weapon at the plaintiff, and threatened to deploy the same against her if she would not expose her breasts to him. That upon seeing the threat of unlawful force, the plaintiff took physical flight and ran from Carter. Wow, I didn't even know you could do this. Officer Carter then proceeded to physically chase the plaintiff through her place of employment, the complaint states. And when I interject and say, wow, I didn't know you were able to do this, what I'm talking about is suing the police officer who used wrongful force, because, yeah, you know, this has happened to me where I've been chased down by a cop who stuck his baton in my spokes, and everyone's like, oh, you should sue, but I really don't have any model for that. And this is shocking, because here she is saying, like, look, you used wrong force, she actually took it to court. What a great model. Maybe if this goes well for her, I can do the same for me. I know the officers in Keene have overstepped their bounds several times, once pepper spraying me while I had my hands handcuffed behind my back. Let's continue. Quote, that while chasing the plaintiff, Carter activated and deployed his electroshock taser weapon in drive stun mode numerous times at or directed at the plaintiff. That Carter did these actions with the intention of causing fear, imminent fear of bodily harm, and emotional distress to gain the plaintiff's compliance with his sexual demands. Wasn't that what it's all about, is compliance? Now, I'm reading that this story was first reported that in October of 2013, so this is not a new story, but as you know, these lawsuits tend to drag on. I will look for the latest of updates about this lawsuit, but this incident occurred in 2011, just to give you an idea of how long some of these things can take. And that's actually encouraging to me, because my attack, the time I was attacked on the bike, was in 2012, and I was pepper sprayed in 2011. So hey, maybe the statute of limitations on these hasn't run out. We'll find out. What's up next? We've got bunch of stories of peaceful resistance. Let's cruise right through them. Next, oh yeah, the crying bullied schoolgirl. I'll play the video of this schoolgirl so you can check it out for yourself, and then let's talk about it. This is Sarah Sissenbalk of Fossen, Minnesota. Is a frustrated mom who took matters into her own hands after claiming that her daughter was repeatedly bullied on the school bus, and the school did nothing about it. She posted this video on Facebook. Take a listen to this.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Tell me what happened today on the bus on the way home.
I don't want to. I'll tell.
All right, and that's the girl's little brother who jumps in and says, "Oh, I'm going to tell." All right, let's get into what some of the complaints are from this young girl, and also Davi Barker will soon be joining us to talk about his complaints with FedEx. What's going on there? Peaceful resistance all over the place. Can't wait to join you. This is Peace News Now. Check us out at peacenewsnow.com/live, and we'll return in moments.
This is the Central Scrutinizer. I steal your labor by force through taxation.
What's up, Derek?
Hey, Davi. Good to see you.
How's it going?
It's excellent. It's been a while since I've seen you. Oh, and listen to how nice you sound.
Yeah, this is my new mic. I got an arm and everything.
Holy moly. Yeah, you sound great.
Good.
I'm wearing one of your shiny badges.
I see that. How have you been? I haven't seen you in a while.
I've been great. I've been on vacation for a little while, so that's probably why you haven't seen me. I have been getting ready to go to Keene when I will no longer be on vacation. I'll be hitting the ground running, working on all my projects again. So I've stayed away from doing anything except for Peace News Now related stuff, and that's what I'm doing now. So I'm excited. In fact, I almost I was coming in from New York. I almost missed the beginning of the show, but I'm posting the link on Peace News Now, and I'm still getting Skype set up over here on this end. So, yeah, everything's great. I'm just not 100% there.
Okay.
Because I'm on vacation.
Well, cool.
Yeah, it's great. I can't wait for PorcFest. Can't wait for Keene. Everything is.
I feel like there's a lot to say about FedEx. Do you have a spin on that you want to take, or I'm not totally sure?
Well, I just would rather hear from the horse's mouth. Is all. I think there's like, I think it's cool that you. It's the topic of our businesses collections agencies for the state.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there's a collections agency that's been after me for years because of a federal loan that I took for school. And at the time, it was a loan from the government. And then suddenly it gets transferred over to independent lawyers, and I'm like, and independent collections agencies, and I'm like, go away. You know, I'm not talking to you. Don't call here. And that's weird because, like, how do other people start to become collections for government agents? I just feel like it should stay the government's business.
Yeah, well, I mean, to some extent, even filing your taxes is the same sort of thing. You're acting as your own tax collector.
Yeah, but I don't do that, so that's it's all so foreign to me. So I want to talk about it a little bit. And I like your form of peaceful resistance that you included a little letter of explanation. So we'll do more of that. Talk about that.
All right, cool.
Yeah, here's some ads while I get everything else set up on the website.
Okay.
493-0309. That's 213-493-0309. What if the key to achieving liberty in your lifetime was to move together with others who think like you? Liberty activists are joining the Free State Project, which is over 70% of the way to its goal of 20,000 participants. And they're already making the move to New Hampshire. The successes are piling up and are proving the Free State Project is a real movement and no longer just a great idea. When you're planning your move, consider Keene. Keene is famous for its civil disobedience and non-cooperation, and there's plenty of political opportunity as well. From demonstrations and vigils to outreach and volunteering, there's a lot going on in Keene. Keene is the liberty media capital of the world, with television, talk radio, and more, all originating here. Though it's more than just activism, with regular social events each week. See what's happening at freekeene.com and get connected with video, audio, free books, a forum, and activist tools you can download and use in your area at freekeene.com. That's freekeene.com.
Help get LRN.FM into more ears. Visit promote.lrn.fm for a free bumper sticker, flyers, banners, graphics, and more. Promote.lrn.fm.
What's going on, everybody? We're back at PNN Live. We're talking about some issues of peaceful resistance that occurred this week. One old story about a cop chasing down a woman who refused to show her breasts, and he chased her down and tased her. Then she decided to get all peaceful resistance on him, not just after running away, but then decides to invoke a federal lawsuit. Not bad. Well done, Ashley Bennett of Haskell, Arkansas. And I will be looking for a follow-up to that story to see what happened, what came of that. But now let's continue with the story of a young girl who was bullied at school, and her mom didn't know what to do about it, so she decided, I'm just going to videotape this. That's the best thing I can do. Here's the video. This poor girl, her brother. We're at the part where her brother is chiming in because the girl's all choked up. The brother's going to step in and explain what happened on the bus today. Here we go. Okay, and I have no idea. The video's just completely not playing where it was playing a second ago. I'm going to try and reload this right now and see if this video from Sarah Chimbalik of Minnesota
What do you mean?
is going to work. Okay, here we go.
What do you mean?
Tell me what happened today on the bus on the way home.
I don't want to. I'll tell.
Little girl goes to a government school in her local area.
Well, stand by her and tell us what happened then, Benny. Because you were on the bus, too. Get in close to her so you can be in there, too.
The kid is like
Well, this guy named Landon.
looking real awkward.
Well, the bus driver, when my sister right here, when she first got on, the bus driver said, "You sit your ass down."
Whoa.
So in the front seat, and then at the end, this bully that always bullies us, he came up in the front, right behind Caitlin. He bullies this other girl that's a high schooler.
Whoa.
And
What are high schoolers doing on the same bus as these
and
kids?
he said that she is a lesbian, the girl that he bullies, and
Wow, they shouldn't be having to hear
So,
that kind of language on their way to school.
and this guy named Jerome on the playground, he said, "You're gonna die by suicide." They called me a son of a bitch and a motherfucker.
Yikes. But how this kid must be like 5 years old to be repeating this kind of language. The girl looks about 9. And this is what they deal with on their way to and from school
What are you
every
whispering,
day.
Benny?
This is how the government takes them to where they need to go get
Whisper
educated.
to me what you want to say, and then I'll say it to the camera. Or something. Keep your phone.
Yeah.
Just pretend the camera ain't even here. Just tell me like you told me when you got home, Anna.
I don't want to.
How come, Pumpkin?
I just don't want to.
Okay, then if you don't want to tell me what happened, honey, tell me how it makes you feel.
It makes me feel sad.
Yeah,
And I feel scared.
yeah,
And I don't like it.
I know. Sweetie.
All right,
You
now
tell me how many times.
the video could stop there. We're at 2 minutes and 25 seconds, and the girl has told you how it makes her feel, which is scared and she doesn't like it. So obviously, I would just say, look, you don't have to endure this kind of situation. You don't have to go into this cage and go be bullied every day. But the mom persists. She wants more explanations from this young girl, Anna, and she pushes for more of an explanation. Here we go.
You've been in and told the principal about it?
Like 5.
Okay. Can you tell me what they've done about it?
Nothing.
And how does that make you feel?
Sad.
Yeah.
Makes me feel like crap.
Yeah.
Same as me.
Does it make you feel like they don't believe you? Yeah.
We talked to. I'm going to talk to Mom.
It's an awful lot of
Put your head down,
words
Diana.
being put in this young
We
girl's
talked
mouth.
to a sheriff, and he said, or an $100 bus driver would never do that.
Oh,
And my sister thinks that he's drinking wine while driving.
oh wow! So they talked to the sheriff, and the sheriff says, "Hey, I don't think the bus driver would do that. They wouldn't say sit your ass down. They wouldn't treat little children like that. No way," the sheriff says. And then the girl says, "No, I think he's drinking wine while they're driving." I mean, this is a really bizarre encounter. What is really going on here? Let's finish up the video. Oh, go ahead.
I think the mom might be trying to get her to say things she already said, because it sounds like the girl told her the story before she turned on the camera. So I'm not sure the mom's putting words in her mouth. I think the mom's trying to get her to say what she said before.
Oh, that's a good point. The first time I heard this story, this video, I was thinking like, this mom is really reaching. She keeps saying things, like suggesting things to this girl to try and see, like, will she just say yes? Like, what was her point? Was she trying to make this video and then bring it to the school? Like, look, we've been to you 5 times, the girl said, and you haven't done anything about it. You know, whereas that's not the words that are coming from this girl's mouth in the video. It's coming from the mom, and the girl's just agreeing. So I don't know if this mom is just like one of these women who plays the victim card all the time, or what's really going on. Because I want to be fair. You know, I want to have a fair assessment of the situation. Yeah, I'm against public schools, but that doesn't mean every complaint is valid. But let's finish up this video and see what we think at the conclusion.
Did you tell your principal that?
No.
But you told him about him being mean?
And we talked to him for about 30 minutes, the principal, one day, and nothing happened.
What did he say you should do?
Just ignore him. And nothing happened. That's just freaking bullcrap.
Don't talk like that, buddy.
It doesn't make me happy at all.
No, it wouldn't make you happy. What do you think should happen to these kids?
Get him sent to juvie.
I think they should get suspended.
How does this kid
How does
know
it
about
make you
juvie?
feel
Why
when
does
they
she
don't
think
do
she should be
anything, Anna?
suspended?
It makes me feel sad for all that you guys are trying to do for us.
Oh, it doesn't. We'll do anything for you, Anna. But how does it make you feel inside when these kids keep doing it?
Sad.
Yeah.
And it hurts my feelings.
So the boy is sitting there
What do
next
you
to
want?
his sister. He must be about 5. She's about 9, and he's trying to help her explain what's going on, or what her emotions are like, what happened. And this girl is through tears trying to explain this. She's having a hard time, and I'm suspicious about the motivations, the intentions of this mother, and I can't congratulate the mother for sending the girl to school in the first place. She knows that all this is happening. Why does she keep sending this girl back? All alone. Unprotected. We'll talk about that when we return.
A meme is not easy to define,
What is it?
but you know it when you see it.
Amazing.
Don't tread on
I don't know. What do you think about this, Davi?
I don't know.
Ooh, I like
I
that.
haven't watched this video, so I don't know how it ends.
Yeah.
I guess I do like.
Going. There's no big surprise at the end.
Okay, well, I do like that it's sort of an example of a culture that creates an objective record.
Yeah, that's
Like
a great point.
I like that. I like that her instinct was, well, let's get this on the record. Let's document this, right?
That was an excellent instinct. Good point. Yeah, that's something that I would encourage all parents to do the first time. You know, when not like, oh, how many times have you been to the principal, Anna? 5. It's like, well, how about the first time you get bullied, you make an objective record of it.
How
So,
about if your kids are carrying a recording device every day at school, so that all their interactions with teachers and staff are recorded?
that would be great. I would like to see more children recording inside schools. Schools have to be one of the darkest zones for cameras that could possibly exist. They're so restricted. Although they have their own video cameras, how often do you see that kind of video come out about the day-to-day abuses of a school?
Well, there was a story recently of a teacher who grabbed a student and choked him up against the wall that came
Right.
out this week. And
Yeah,
that looks like it's from a surveillance camera. But I don't know what it took to get that footage. I don't know. The accusation that the driver was drinking seems incredibly serious. Like, you can't just say, oh, silly kid, the bus driver would never do that. Like, you have to look into an accusation like that. Because who else would catch the bus driver except the kids?
well, the buses have their own cameras. From what I remember being on a school bus, there's a
Oh, do
camera in the
they?
front and a camera in the back, and they go to dispatch. So if a, if a bus driver is drinking from a bottle of wine, it's going to be completely obvious. And if a bus driver was interested in drinking wine on the job, they would put it in a water bottle. They're not going to keep it in a wine bottle.
No, but so that's the point. Did the kid say drinking wine or drinking a wine bottle? If the guy's on camera and he knows it, then he would put it in something else, and it would be the kid smelling wine that would be the tell.
Well, they didn't say bottle. They said that they think that the driver was drinking wine. But I would think that a kid could easily get confused about something like that. And because of the language that the 5-year-old used that was so easy to roll off the tongue, those bleeped words, I think the culture at home might be one in which the parents enjoy wine, often talk about it in front of their kids.
Challenging.
Let's see.
Maybe.
Like,
Well, it's funny. Like this kid clearly he's comfortable just spitting out obscenities, obviously, and the reaction from the mom is, "Don't talk like that." Like it doesn't seem like there's been a discussion about it, or it doesn't seem like she's like incredibly like cracking down about it. So he's picked up the language from somewhere.
yeah.
He's learned this from somewhere, and it's not her.
I would think it would be her. I think it would be the mother. Why would the child talk on camera so comfortably to the mother if not having heard those words from her?
I don't know. It's strange. It strikes me as strange because she doesn't sound like her. She's got that sort of. Her voice doesn't sound like that kind of parent, right? Like her voice sounds like the ever consoling parent.
You're right. Hold on, we're back.
This is the Liberty Radio Network, broadcasting
She
the
does
latest
sound like
liberty-oriented audio content 24 hours a day at lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News Now. We're playing the remaining minute of a video posted to the internet. Fox8.com reports about a mom posting a video of her crying, bullied young daughter. And what's the school going to do about it? Well, I'd like to know what this parent is going to do about it. So far, what she's done is keep an objective record of the complaint. We'll hear the end of it now.
To happen, honey, other than them get suspended?
I don't know.
How do you want to feel again about going to school?
I feel lazy.
I don't want to
Ah.
ever go to school again.
There we go.
You want to feel what, Anna?
I want to feel like I'm wanted in the school, like people like me.
Yeah. That's understandable. That's totally normal, Anna. I understand that. Everyone wants to be liked, or at least be treated nice.
So she's just
You
crying.
need a
The
hug.
young girl's just sitting there in tears. That's her final statement. Do you need a hug? Mom, you can do more than give a hug. A hug is a great idea, but how about homeschooling your kids and taking them out of this bully pen? Am I right? Is that the most obvious solution here, Davi? Shouldn't the mother just not put her child in a place where she's being abused?
Yeah, I feel like too many parents feel like that's not even an option. And so they feel like it's their job to talk their kid into wanting to go back to school, when in reality the kid probably has a good reason not to want to go back to school.
Did you hear even the 5-year-old said, when asked, how does it make you feel, he said, it makes me feel like I don't want to go to school ever again. Great. Don't
Right.
go. You don't have to go.
Come up with something else.
There's nothing there for you, kid. I mean, if you're feeling abused from the moment you walk on the transportation to the school, it can't get better from there. And then you're going to have to ride the same vehicle home. So I just wish this mom would see that there is an option besides sending your kid to these government schools, because they fail the students at every level. They fail them in their safety, in their education, and in socializing, because that's the other thing that parents say that schools are so valuable for. Well, if I don't send my kid to a public government school, or if I homeschool, then my child won't be socialized, won't know how to interact with others.
You know what I find really ridiculous about that?
What?
The only adults that socialize in an environment like school are convicts. Like, no adult says, I want a social life. I'm going to have somebody force me onto a bus and drive me into a room where I'm put into a facility with a bunch of other people that don't want to be there, not allowed to leave. Nobody wants that from their social life. So, I mean, you would think that socializing people would be exposing them to actual social environments.
No, it's about institutionalizing them, Davi, because I had never felt more back in school than when I went to jail. It felt like I was just right back in school. The decor is the same. It's the same cinder block walls that are painted the same. It's the same people who build prisons as build government schools.
Yeah.
And
room schedules, cafeterias, buses, bell schedules, sure.
exactly, it's all the same, especially the cafeteria part. I feel like that's the one that really drives it home. There's no other institution quite like a prison or a elementary school lunchroom, because you have to decide. You take your tray. You've got the slop that is decided on not by you. It's not like you have your order taken at a restaurant, and then you have to find a place to fit in with the other inmates at the asylum, so to speak.
Boot camp might be similar. I know there's cafeterias and boot camps.
Yeah, that's right. Ooh, I don't know what that happy noise was, but it sounded very good. We might have a special caller or someone special joining us. Who knows?
I don't know what that is.
I have no idea either. I want it to stop though. Maybe I don't know where it's happening, but we'll just keep rolling the show along. The next, oh god, the
Is
next,
it me or you? Can you tell?
No, I don't think it's I don't think it's me. I don't have any visual indication of what's making that noise, so I'm just gonna have to keep rolling along. A cop beat up a 6th grader recently. And oh wait, did you want to get to I want to get to your FedEx story before I move on to another ridiculous story, because you're here. So you recently had a letter that you wrote to FedEx. Tell me about it.
Yeah, so I run ShinyBadges.com, and a lot of the products I sell there are manufactured overseas, and so they're shipped to me. And so, in addition to, I'm paying freight through the manufacturer, right? That's part of the invoice that I pay the manufacturer. And so things just get delivered to me. And then periodically, at seemingly random intervals, I get these bills from FedEx saying, oh, you imported something? Here's your import tax. Right? And they send me these separate invoices that are separate from the jobs that I actually order. And it doesn't seem consistent. It's not every package. It's like I've only received maybe 4 of these in the entire time I've been in business.
So it's seemingly random times they just send you bills for taxes?
Anywhere between like $30, the largest was $120. And so I ignored them for a long time because they weren't addressed to me. They were addressed to the Muslim Agorist, which is my email address. And I'm like, that's not a taxable person, so I don't know who you're asking to pay this bill.
Yeah, that's a interesting point. How many people who are sent tax bills have it sent to their avatar or their eBay business?
Right.
And is that even a taxable entity?
Well, I think it's because that's the name of the account with the manufacturer. And so the manufacturer puts the name from my email on there instead of the name from my bank account, and that's just probably a clerical error.
Okay.
But I stopped. I didn't respond to these for a long time, and then I started getting sort of the collection agency's threats. And so then I called FedEx and I said, I don't understand what this bill is. And I told them, I don't think you're the IRS, so why are you collecting taxes? And
Did you record that call by chance?
No, I didn't. I probably should have.
Oh man, that would have been one of those great Mark Stevens Wall of Shame or Call of Shame videos.
Maybe. It ended very abruptly, though. The person on the other end said, let me put you on hold. I'll see if I can find someone who can answer that question. They put me on hold, and 10 minutes later they said, I've taken care of it. You can throw away the invoice. I'm like, great. I'll just make these phone calls and not pay these taxes.
Wow. Wait a minute. So one of the times when you received these bills, you just called up and they took care of it? And just a matter of minutes, does it?
Disappeared the charge.
Wow. Right. Well, if it's that easy, it makes me wonder, like, why do they even send you the bill in the first place?
I guess it's probably a lot like a traffic ticket where they expect people not to protest it. They just expect people to pay it.
Yeah,
right?
but no. Who are they collecting it for? If they're collecting it for the government, then they are expecting people to pay it because they have to. If they don't make up this money, they're going to be in trouble. So
yeah.
Why would they?
Anyway, this last one they didn't take care of, and I got a follow up. This one actually, it doesn't say invoice at the top. It says final demand at the top. And so I said, okay, I guess I'll pay this one. It's $30. But I do something.
Or else what? Final demand until what?
I guess until it goes to the collection agency again, and the collection agency will tend to tack on fees and fines and things. And so I don't know. I just
Yeah, but then what? I mean, I'm in one of those situations where a bill that I had with the government has been sent over to private collections agencies, which I guess they think is more efficient than bureaucrats sending letters. They'll let a private firm do it because they make phone calls too, and they like track down your family members and other stuff. Like I've had my aunts and uncles.
I'll tell you what. The next one I get, that will be my question. I'll call them and I'll just say, what happens if I don't pay this?
Yeah, please do that because I'd love to see what happens. I've gone through that and it's not too bad. They just they turn it over to a private collections agency, and they make lots of phone calls, and that they try and collect the money, but that's it. It's like
I guess I'll record that phone call next time. But this time I'd sent a letter, and I wrote FedEx. This invoice is apparently for duties, taxes, customs, or other fees, which is a charge I don't understand or care to understand. What I
Hold
find
that thought. We're coming up on a break.
Okay.
We have to take a trip to the market. And when we return, I want to hear the full text of the letter that you sent FedEx, because it's pretty hilarious. I'd love to see more people doing this. We'll be right back with PNN Live. Yeah, this is great. Excellent letter. And yeah, before spilling the beans about the text of the letter, I just want to say I really wish more people did this. I'm surprised that in 2014, like this is one of the first times I'm hearing about this, because it seems like
normally do this. I normally do this with traffic tickets. I've never had reason to do this with a company before.
Is it successful with traffic tickets?
No.
What do you mean? What happens?
I've had traffic. I've delayed traffic ticket processing or whatever months on end by sending in questions instead of sending in checks. But they eventually just they add fees on and the bill goes up and they start threatening to suspend your license and.
Yeah, all that stuff has happened to me. I think it's really funny. They just increased the fees. Like my fees on the loan have now doubled the amount that I owe. They doubled the principal, and I just think that's hilarious because it's like symbolic. Like I'm not gonna pay it. How many times does it go? 20 times more? Like 100 times more? What's the value of this thing gonna grow to that they're gonna expect to collect on? It's a ridiculous joke. I don't.
And that's such a nasty thing to do in conflict resolution, right? Like,
Add
imagine like if you and I were like getting a divorce, right? Like, and we were settling how we're going to split our assets. And I said to you, hey, if you don't give me half your assets next week, I want 80% of the marital assets, right? Like,
yeah. Like, excuse? How's that fair? I don't get it. Or more similarly, it would be like I don't know, a contract that we entered into that you were sort of coerced into, like one where I'm like, here, sign this, sign this, sign this. You could read it later. Like, you don't really need to figure this out. Everyone does it, and everyone pays it back, and you don't have to worry about this for 4 years, Davi. So just here, just sign here, and then everything will be okay. Because that's how these loans typically work for students who are going off to school. It's like, they don't know what they're getting into. They don't know what they're signing up for. And then later, when they leave school, they get these bills, and they're like, huh? Why is this showing up? I don't even understand. They don't even know that they were signed up for years of debt that then gets turned over to private collections agencies. It's all so weird. Like, another thing about student debt that I found out, and I should Google this statistic, but I think it's not counted among the national debt. Like, the national, what is national debt clock? Yeah, I think the national debt clock may include it as a figure. USDebtClock.org is where people can go to see the clock that I'm looking at. Yeah, we have household debt, mortgage debt, student loan debt that's millions, billions, trillions, $1.1 trillion. But that's nowhere compared to, let's see, thousands, millions, billions. Oh, well, that's more than all U.S. credit card debt. So that's really saying something. Just to put that in perspective.
Hit survivalspeech.com.
We'll be back in 10
Holland
seconds.
Cook.
You can sign up to receive the latest about the Liberty Radio Network via our email updates at updates.lrn.fm. That's updates.lrn.fm.
Yeah, we're dancing to the music of Peace News now in this chat room. I love the dance music too. It doesn't quite fit the show, but it's always fun to dance to. So we're talking about Davi's experience with FedEx. They're trying to collect some taxes for the federal government, but is that really their role? Davi writes to FedEx in the following letter.
So I wrote, Dear FedEx, this invoice is apparently for duties, tax, customs, or other fees, which is a charge I don't understand or care to understand. What I find most disturbing about this is that FedEx is collecting this tariff. Is the government paying you to be its tax collector, or have they drafted you into public service involuntarily? Have you also been empowered to threaten the tax cattle, or merely to fleece us?
You're funny, man.
I'm sending you this check because I understand that a tax is a threat. I feel no duty to pay it and do so under duress. It seems to me the government should be doing its own dirty work, but if you're going to be their messenger, you're going to receive my letters of protest. Davi Barker.
That's beautiful. And you said letters, implying there will be more if they continue to make demands. Is that right?
I write letters like this all the time, but I usually write them for traffic citations or anything that involves communicating with the government. I decided a couple of years ago that to whatever degree I'm going to comply, I'm going to make it clear that I don't consent. And so I always include letters like this whenever I have any sort of communication with the government. But this was the first time that it's come up where I had to send it to a private company.
Does this do anything besides make you feel better?
Well, it does make me feel better. It usually gets a lot of likes and shares on Facebook when I post these things on Facebook, and I like to think that that inspires other people to do something similar. And I also like to think that the bureaucrat who opens this envelope has, for the first time in their day, an original idea. And,
Yeah.
and so I like to imagine the audience.
You probably rock their world. Like, whoever opens this letter just got their day rocked. I mean, they're definitely coming home and talking about this letter at dinner. Like, you know, something strange. Like, anything happened at the office today, babe? Like, oh, yeah, you know, we got this letter. It was really weird. Some kooky nut saying, like, I don't want to pay your taxes. But I'm like, we're FedEx. We're not the government. Don't complain to us, right? That's probably going to be their first impression. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, shouldn't complain to us. Write your congressman, blah. But he said he's going to send more letters of protest if we send him like, more complaints. So I'm not really sure what to do. I sent it to the HR department saying, like, I don't know what to do. They probably passed the letter around the office. Like, well, I don't know what should we do? What's the next course of action?
So maybe, to me, it's just about the difference between grudgingly complying and openly not agreeing, right? It's
yeah,
about,
I have a lot of respect for that. When videographers are told they're no longer allowed to record in public spaces, and Dave Ridley is famous for, complying but slowly, complying but not in the way that the bureaucrats want them to. So
Right.
he'll say, yes, I'm complying with your order. I'm walking away slowly, walking backwards as he's carrying the camera, continuing to record the authorities. So
Sure.
I like when people comply and are clear about the fact that they're doing it under duress. Ian does this a lot. Ian Freeman of freekeene.com and Free Talk Live in court will often specify that he is complying with orders under duress.
Right, and oftentimes that is as offensive to them as not complying, right?
That's
but
right.
If you didn't specify that it was under duress, they would go about their day thinking that everybody agreed with what they were doing, and they would not know that people were upset about it.
What effect do you think that has on one's psyche as an authoritarian? Are they completely exempt from empathy when it comes to people expressing their lack of consent? In other words, if a cop or a judge were to suddenly all day hear his victims stating that they are complying under duress, do you think that would get under their skin after a while?
It definitely gets under the skin of TSA agents. When TSA agents tell me to go somewhere and stand somewhere, I'll tell them I'm complying but I'm not consenting. I just want to make it perfectly clear you're touching me against my will. They often get meek, like something about it, like they suddenly feel embarrassed for themselves and get a lot nicer when I say this.
Yeah, because they know that they're going to have to do the moral and nearly physical equivalent of raping you.
Right.
You're telling them, you do not have my consent to touch my body. When you do that, you will be in violation of my personal space against my will. And so they have to then break that personal space, knowing full well how you feel about it. And that.
So I do a lot of sort of study on the psychology of authority, and one of the experiments that sort of demonstrated when the psychology of authority doesn't produce all these monstrous consequences is when the authority figure's sense of legitimacy is undermined. Then they actually self-correct, right? So if you can actually say something to them that convinces them that they're not acting upon a legitimate authority, like they're acting arbitrarily and illegitimately, then all the sort of psychological effects of authority reverse themselves.
Wow. So how can we get authority figures to see that their authority is illegitimate and get them to self-correct their aggressive behavior?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I think that requires a lot more study. I think mockery is good. I think non-compliance is good. I think just casually explaining it to them in a sort of nonviolent communication way is good. But the point is that something has to tell them that what they're doing is not legitimate.
Yeah, and it has to also come from within, I would think. That's the best motivator. For an example of mocking that really worked well, I see Michelle Seven do this a lot. I admire her ability to refuse to comply and peacefully resist. One example, I was crossing the street with Michelle7 one day, and you can follow her on Twitter at BitcoinBell. There was a police officer who was at the stoplight, and it was red for us to cross. So we weren't supposed to cross, but if we looked both ways, we could tell there were no cars coming. So we look over at the police officer, and Michelle says, "If I cross the street, are you going to write me a ticket for jaywalking?" And the officer gave a nice little shrug of like, "I don't know, maybe I will, who knows." And she galloped across and like skipped and made a big show of how she was crossing the street and laughed, and the cop was so like disempowered, even though she was asking permission or was asking like, "Will you be threatening me if I do this action of my own free will?" He had been laughed at, and I think that did more to, like, who knows if he would have gone after her for something as simple as jaywalking, but the next time he goes after someone for something ridiculous, I think he's going to have that same memory of like being laughed at by a group of people.
I wonder, there's probably a difference between humor where he feels that he was laughed at and humor where he feels like he's laughing at himself. Like there's a different kind of humor when a person's capable of laughing at themselves.
Yeah, do you think this was the latter, where he felt like he was in on the joke?
Like, because she was saying, look at how ridiculous this situation is. Like, you're there enforcing a crime, I'm here committing a crime. What a strange predicament we've landed ourselves in, right?
Yeah, I really did like that, because I think it did include him in on the joke. Like, he wasn't left out. And that's one new idea that I've been flirting with lately, is something Pete Eyre gets into a lot, of copblock.org, saying that, like, treat each person as an individual and don't see cops as others. You know, there's like an us versus them, where there's cops and there's non-cops. It's like we're all individuals. Treat every person with respect, and you don't know where they've come from or what they're going to do today or what they've done in their past. So just treat every person with respect and see them as an individual. I think this falls perfectly into line with that. And I want to believe the best in people, even cops. Anything else you wanted to say on that topic of FedEx and this resistance? Do you have a model that inspired you, or how did you end up writing these letters of protest? Was there someone who inspired you?
Well, I mean, it's sort of funny, but it actually is from religion. There's a saying attributed to the Prophet Muhammad that that when one sees evil in the world, he should change it with his hand, and if he can't change it with his hand, he should change it with his tongue, and if he can't change it with his tongue, then he should hate it in his heart, and that's sort of the weakest position. And so I just realized I was walking around with a lot of like hate in my heart, and I just sort of discovered that by voicing it, by saying it, by at least taking the step of trying to change things with my tongue, that alleviates a lot of this sort of internal turmoil that I was carrying around.
Wow. Interesting points. Who'd have thought that it came from religion? I want to ask you a little bit more about that. Plus, we'll see shocking video taken by a school kid of cops beating up a 6th grader. Wow. And that is just amazing video. Have you seen the video of the cops beating up the 6th grader? Came out on the 13th.
I saw the link, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah, it's hard to watch. But let's watch it twice, because we'll see it once here in the preview section. I don't know if you're able to stay or not. I'm gonna go.
I'm sure.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm gonna do a second hour. I've got a bunch of news stories. I'll invite you to the document so that you can have all the links that I'm using. Share with the Muslim agorist. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that was sort of part of my pilgrimage. I went on my pilgrimage a little over a year ago, and that took about a year of preparation. And it was just so much compliance with both the U.S. government and the Saudi government to get that visa that I started writing these letters in these applications for visas. And,
wow.
I wasn't denied because of it, so, you know.
So you wrote the letters of protest. They didn't keep the visas from you, but at least someone read them, you think?
Yeah, maybe. I like to think so. But it was just like, you know, I'm going on this pilgrimage, which is like a religious sort of thing. Like, how awful would it be to lie on all of my applications, right? you know, and I felt like by filling out those forms without saying something about what I disagreed about those forms, that I was essentially lying on my application.
Yeah, silence is compliance. And so by maintaining silence about the whole thing, it's tacit agreement to it, is it not?
Yeah, because I don't want to give the impression that I'm conceding that the Saudi government is legitimate by filling out this form. And so I said so in my application.
I want to share with you this video that we're going to be watching coming up, and I have to refill my water, but it's just 28-second clip and then a 90-second clip, and oh God, I can't believe what the cops are willing to do right outside of a school, knowing they're on video. But here it goes.
Oh, everybody who arrested me and Keene! Ah! Everybody who arrested me and Keene!
Shit. I want him to see my phone, bitch.
Oh, so I guess he's hiding his phone. The kid's on a bus.
Boom!
They can't do that. Y'all need to get
I don't know if you saw that, Tommy. Did you catch that?
Boom!
They can't.
Were you able to see that?
No, it's really kind of fuzzy. I think between the resolution on the YouTube video and then the resolution on the Google Hangout, I'm not making out what's going on here.
I'll see if I can make it a little bigger, better resolution. That's a slightly better resolution, and let me see if maybe this might even make it a little better. Just try it like that.
I want him to see my phone, bitch.
So he's like hiding his
Kelly
phone.
said, fuck you, bro, straight up. I heard outside the door.
Kid in red.
Boom!
They can't do that. Y'all need to.
Did you see him just trip the kid while he's in handcuffs? Huh?
Okay.
I mean, like, the kid, he's standing in handcuffs. This is the second time.
So I'm not looking at the kid in the white shirt. I'm looking at, so there's this one officer who's walking away from us right now is the guy, and we're looking at the kid in the red shirt. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. The officer who's walking away from the video camera right now, walking towards the kid in the red shirt. He's about to go up.
At the wrong kid.
Yeah, he's about to walk past the kid in the white shirt, and then the kid in red is already handcuffed, and he's in 6th grade. So, small kid surrounded by 4 cops outside of a school. You know, there's a school bus of kids who are filming this, and here we go.
Kelly said, fuck you, bro, straight up. I heard outside the door.
Yeah, I saw him. Boom!
Oh.
They can't do that. Y'all need to. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, you should record it. I recorded that.
And I'm glad the kid recorded that as he bragged.
There was no point in that whatsoever.
No, he just walked up to him and knocked his legs out. It was just a bully tactic. That's exactly what bullies do.
You know, I did something on Facebook yesterday. I don't know if you saw, but I posted probably 20 different articles of bad cop stories.
Wow.
And every single one I put, the comment I put on the link was just one bad apple. So all day, just one bad apple, just one bad apple, just one bad apple, and I put up probably 20 of them. And then the last story I put up was a story about Apple the company, and it was that they were changing their phones so that police could deactivate recording software during an incident on people's iPhones.
Right.
And I said, just one bad apple, only this time it's actually an apple, and all those other ones are violent sociopaths masquerading as peace officers.
Yep.
And that was the one that got the most comments and the most likes and the most shares. Like, for some reason, the one about the company was the one that people wanted to interact with, and not the ones about the officers. And I just, like, it struck me as, like, really weird that one was the most popular.
Why do you think that is? Do people just not want to talk about things that are too close to home, and police departments are part of us? You know, everyone encounters police departments, but you can choose whether or not you want to interact with Apple, the company.
Yeah, I think it might be something about people not wanting to acknowledge what they don't feel like they can change. But I don't know. It bothered me, I guess.
Yeah, I can see why that would bother you, for sure. Well, hey, I'm going to grab some water, and I'll be right back. I should also throw up the ad screen, because this show is brought to us entirely by listeners. So it's pretty cool that they can make a donation at donate.peacenewsnow.com, or by simply scanning one of the QR codes that they see on their screen, which I will pull up in a second while I go and get water. And here's some ads.
2014. I'm Brian Hagan, reporting. Reminding you, spread liberty with a smile.
1 minute.
Thomas the Tank Engine says he's a little uneasy with his broad autistic following, and a couple has a nest egg of debt to make sure they've got some money to owe down the road. This is the Onion Week in Review. Local video editor James Korf told reporters Wednesday that despite having said goodbye over 10 minutes ago, his friend, Michael Woodward, still remained active on GChat and had shown no signs of leaving.
If it were yellow, it would mean that he hasn't been on the computer for a little while, or if it was red, it would mean he doesn't want to talk, but it's green. I can tell. I can see it right there.
Korf later said that he felt briefly relieved when Woodward's chat logo turned orange, but was once again dejected when it became green within seconds. And in this week's op-ed pages, a high school guidance counselor laments the fact that no one in his entire damn school has been molested. In other news, a bedbug feels bad for an area man, but a bug's gotta eat. A development exec wants to see what, where, and how that would look, live, and play out. And a man at the gym is just watching TV. For more, visit theonion.com/newsbeat.
This is the Onion News Network.
Welcome back. It's the top of the hour. This is Peace News Now, Sunday, May 18th, 2014. I'm joined by Davi Barker, the Muslim agorist, who this week engaged in some peaceful resistance by writing a letter of protest to FedEx for trying to collect some government taxes that he neither understands nor cares to understand, in his words. And I think that's excellent. Hey, can we read your letter anywhere? Did you post it to one of your blogs?
It's on Facebook right now. I also put it over in the comments section, so you can grab that and post it wherever you want.
Cool. Yeah, I'll link. I see your words in the comments section of this hangout, and I will post them in the show notes. That's what they're called. Now, I've got a story that's a little bit disturbing. Two particularly disturbing videos have surfaced on YouTube of Boynton Beach police allegedly brutalizing a young boy. Nothing alleged about it. You're about to see the evidence for yourself. The first video, uploaded on the 11th of May.
The videotape is alleging this happened.
Right. You can't know for sure. We won't know for sure until a judge says it's true. But one of the officers places a tiny 80-pound boy in a chokehold and then shoves his head down, all while he is in handcuffs. I'm going to play that first video for you here. Try and drown out the sound of the yelling boys. The people who are taking this video are young students on a school bus who are witnessing this happen right out in front of their school. Thank goodness they have the technology and the wherewithal to use the technology to keep an objective record of what's happening in the world around them. Here it goes.
Asking you to sit down. Young man, have a seat. David gonna bump y'all asleep. What you doing there? I didn't say he did anything. Y'all mouth get y'all in trouble. You need to be quiet. I don't do my job dirty.
Okay, now there are 4 officers standing around. There's an 80-pound boy in a chokehold. An officer is putting handcuffs on the 6th grader in a red shirt. There's also a boy in a white shirt sitting already in handcuffs. There the officer just put his hand on the back of the boy's neck like he's a young calf being directed around by some farmhand. 4 police officers standing around 2 abused children. And are they protecting them?
Hey man, free my dogs, dog, man.
Man, free Kevin and David, man.
That's fucked up, man.
Well, that's what the kids around them think. You can hear their commentary. I thought there was something at the end of that video. Yeah, I don't see anything unusual about the end of that video. It's just the beginning, where the young boy is put in a chokehold. Now, if you thought that was bad, here comes the next part. Let's get through this. So here's the boy in the red shirt. Apparently, he's been stood up for some reason. It's not like he would be able to just get up while he's sitting in there handcuffs. An officer comes over and sweeps his leg behind the boy's knee. So the officer sweeps his leg underneath the boy's knees. He's in handcuffs, of course, so he's got nothing to break his fall. He can't brace himself for anything. And so that's exactly the videos. Oh darn! And I noticed that I was remiss in clicking the buttons for these videos. So at least for the benefit of the viewing audience, while we're talking over them, I will play them again because I forgot to show them on the screen. But my goodness, this police brutality is being witnessed by young people, and they're keeping an objective record of what's happening. What do you think is the future of police brutality if 6th graders are already objecting to this and engaging in peaceful resistance?
Well, they already know. They've seen these videos online. They know that the thing to do is to record. They know that having the recording is valuable. The kid's very excited that he had this recording. So, I mean, you're looking at a generation of people that is not going to tolerate it the way that ours does.
Yeah, I think that's incredible because it's not like the kids didn't know about it before. I mean, the song F the Police is how old? Like 30 years old. So there's been generations of people who have been raised up, and they know that the police are aggressors and are not there to help or protect them, but instead abuse them. And thank goodness that I think it's unfortunate that kids need to be aware of that at all, but it's a good thing that they have the ability to do something about it. Like, they're not just victims. Yeah, this kid in the red shirt today was a victim, but his friends were looking out for him. They might not even be his friends. They might just be classmates who saw this happening. And the more cops know that they cannot hide from any video camera, no matter where they are. You think you're safe because you're at some school. The kids aren't supposed to have video cameras, and you have never heard of an incident where the school used a video camera against your police abuse against you. So, you know, you're safe, right? As an aggressor, you might think you're safe. Not anymore. Now they know. Even kids are going to use these video cameras against them, so they better behave. I like seeing more video cameras. It seems like cops are responding to them by behaving better. So good. I think that's great. There's something else interesting that happened this week that I think is worth talking about in a peaceful resistance context. A huge GM recall. Chevrolet, Corvette, Malibu, Silverado, Tahoe, Cadillac, CTS, the GMC Sierra, and more. Early this morning, the article was written May 15th, General Motors announced 5 separate recalls affecting roughly 2.7 million Cadillacs, Chevrolets, GMCs, Pontiacs, and Saturn vehicles from the 2004 to 2015 model years. Yikes! One of the top recalls is so serious that GM has asked owners to stop driving the vehicles immediately. Given the size and scope of the recalls, it appears that GM is working to nip these issues in the bud and avoid high-profile problems like the current Switchgate fiasco. Jeff Boyer, GM's Vice President of Global Vehicle Safety, confirms that hunch. Quote, "We have redoubled our efforts to expedite and resolve current reviews in process, and have also identified and analyzed recent vehicles issues which require action. These are examples of our focus to surface issues quickly and promptly take necessary actions in the best interests of our customers." All right, I'll give them that. So far, that has been true. They've come out, been totally forthright about it, as far as we know. I mean, who knows how long they knew about these issues, but they gave helpful suggestions right away to people like Consumer Reports, who were immediately reporting that the best thing to do with a lot of these cars is to detach other keys from your keychain. If you're driving any of these cars, definitely go onto the internet and learn about the recalls, the specifics that affect you. But the best thing to take away from it, if you heard one of your cars mention, is to take all the other keys off of your key ring. The problem being that they weigh the key down while it's in the ignition, and if there's any weight on that key, it can sometimes trip the engine and turn it off, even while the car is driving, while the car is in motion. It could be very dangerous if you're on a highway and your car suddenly stops. Of course, it wouldn't mean the car would stop, it just means the engine turns off, and that's going to be an issue for not just the engine, but power steering, your lights, and all the rest. So a very serious issue, and how could it affect 10 years of models, over 10 years, from 2004 to 2015? And then I have to ask myself, how long has General Motors been under the care of the federal government? I mean, how long has it been a federally owned entity? Isn't this fascism, where the state and the corporations are one, and then they're making death machines that suddenly kill their customers? Yikes. Some would say it's predictable. We'll talk about what some people are doing to peacefully resist that coercion.
If there was a
If
place
you can call it
liberty-minded
coercion.
people had been elected,
I don't even know. But Consumer Reports, I think, did the best job by bringing the news to the people about it. You know, we at least need to know what cars are going to explode. Coming up, I want to talk about a Google takedown request. They got a takedown request after a European court ruling. I'll be interested to see if they actually do it. They were ordered to take down links that link to objectionable personal information. And if they open that, I don't know, the nose under the camel's tent, or whatever the expression is, that's a slippery slope. Like, how many things could be taken off of the internet? And isn't that just a new ministry of truth? I don't know. San Francisco is where this is reported from. I don't even want to take a break. I mean, I know it's a commercial break time, but I want to just cruise right along with this story. Google Inc. is already getting requests to remove objectionable personal information from its search engine after Europe's top court ruled that subjects have the right to be forgotten. A source familiar with the matter said on Wednesday. The world's #1 internet search company has yet to figure out how to handle an unexpected flood of requests after Tuesday's ruling, said the source, who is not authorized to speak on the record about the issue. The decision by the Court of Justice of the European Union, which affects the region's 500 million citizens, requires that the internet search services remove information deemed, quote, inadequate, irrelevant, or no longer relevant. Failure to do so can result in fines.
This sounds like a completely new right.
Yes,
like, I've never heard of this right before, the right to be forgotten. They just invented it just now.
I've never heard of that. If you do something remarkable enough, it won't be forgotten, no matter who you appeal to. I mean, let's say Jesus of Nazareth suddenly invoked his right to be forgotten via this court ruling. Could he then petition, or someone in his bloodline petition Google and say, take down all the links that are relevant to Jesus of Nazareth? It would be impossible.
Go into people's brains. Like, memory exists in people's brains. What's the difference between irrelevant and no longer relevant?
I think the intention is like, oh, I used to be a porn star, but now I am a stockbroker. So Google, remove all the information about me being a porn star and only keep the stuff that's currently relevant. I mean, I don't know. I would think that part of the use of the internet is to see a record, like a history of someone's life. So if they are Monica Lewinsky, for example, and you want to know what was Monica Lewinsky doing in, say, 1995, you can just look that up. But if Monica Lewinsky wants to invoke her right to be forgotten, well, then maybe she can say, hey, Google, I've got a request, and if you don't honor this request to remove information about my irrelevant past, that I'm no longer a page or an intern, now I'm a writer, whatever, and
Now I write books about being a page or an intern.
yeah. And so now failure to do so can result in fines. And how does a European court have the authority to issue a fine to Google, which is an American company? Just all seems very odd. I can't imagine. There's so many questions, Google Executive Chairman Eric Schmidt said at the company's annual shareholder meeting on Wednesday in response to a question about the ruling and its implications on Google's operations. Quote, a simple way of understanding what happened here is you have a collision between a right to be forgotten and a right to know. Ooh, we're back on the show. Welcome back. Sorry for that rough intro. Davi and I were just captivated by this story out of Yahoo.com this week about a European court ruling about a new right, a right to be forgotten, and it has
right never before exercised.
Yeah, but now there are a lot of questions about it, and we'll see where this goes. Here's the first video explanation by CBC.
If you've ever made a mistake that's followed you for years online, the European Union's top court is on your side. In a landmark ruling, it said its citizens have rights over what Google shares in its search results. Paul Hunter has the details for us tonight from Washington. Paul.
Hey, Peter, as some have put it today, finally, a ruling that recognizes the value of privacy on the internet. Good luck if something unseemly from your past ever shows up online, because not only is it easily findable, often just a few taps away on Google, but chances are as well it'll be there forever. A life sentence of a kind online. Precisely the circumstance Europe's top court weighed in on today in a case over what's known as the right to be forgotten. The court's ruling, you do have that right, at least in Europe.
El gestor de un motor de búsqueda.
A search engine, said this judge, is obliged to eliminate from a list of search results links to websites with information deemed irrelevant, with certain exceptions. The ruling was about the case of a Spanish man frustrated that a news article on his personal bankruptcy lingered online 16 years later. The court today ruled European laws protect his right to privacy, such that after 16 years, his bankruptcy is irrelevant, and Google should erase its links to that article, even though the article itself can stay.
It's good news because it confirms the position of the European Commission. First, that European law can apply to a search engine, and it's above all not good only for the Commission, but for citizens who will see their data better protected.
Google has faced myriad complaints on privacy before. On its Street View maps, for example, note the now blurred faces and license plates. And more recently, concerns over Google Glass, which hit the U.S. retail market today.
You can't tell right now that I'm recording you. You can't see a little red light. You can't see a green button, but I am.
In a statement about the European Court's decision, Google said it's surprised, adding, "This is a disappointing ruling for search engines and online publishers in general. The ruling affects only European search results. It does not apply in Canada, the U.S., or anywhere else." How Google will comply with the ruling is unclear, but the court seems to suggest individuals must first complain, and independent privacy officials would have final say on when Google must hit delete. But already they're lined up for it. It's early days, but there are at least 200 others in Spain alone already seeking the same protection, and you can bet, Peter, that list will now grow.
All right, Paul. Thank you. Paul Hunter in Washington tonight. This isn't the first time that Google has suffered a defeat in a European court. Just recently, both French and German courts ordered Google to stop showing sexually explicit images when people search for ex-Formula One boss Max Mosley. The court said the photos violated Mosley's privacy, and even though the images were from a British tabloid, Google was effectively a distributor.
What? This story is so insane. I don't even know where to be.
I want to know who the independent privacy specialists are.
What independent privacy specialists?
They said that Google would assess the requests, but final say would fall on an independent privacy specialist. I'm like, well, what does that mean? Does that mean the government? Does that mean some sort of third-party arbiter? Who are these people who decide whether or not my information is relevant?
I like that they sort of pointed out that the government magic wand, it has no real bearing in reality when they say it's unclear how Google will comply with the order. Like, okay, we've made this demand of you. Now you figure out how to comply with it because we've got no clue. I mean, they are a bunch of old guys sitting around in a room saying, well, we really don't like it when we Google our buddy, this politician, and sexually explicit material shows up from a tabloid. We'd like to erase that from history.
Like, imagine if Santorum sued Google and said that nasty definitions of my name are not allowed to come up when you Google my name. Like, it's so absurd.
Yeah, I can't.
Especially since they said that the article itself doesn't have to come down. It just can't appear in search engines.
So Microsoft declined to comment about this, and I think that's a mistake because Microsoft has Bing, which is I think the second largest dominant search engine, at least in Europe and in the U.S., and Google is like the hugest by far, like 90% of the market at least. But it's so unclear what the criteria for determining which takedown requests are legitimate and not legitimate. And what else is unclear is how these companies are supposed to comply. Sorry, I had another video started playing on that screen, but gosh, yeah, I just see a lot of room for abuse for politicians where suddenly, you know how in China you can't Google Tiananmen Square and see results of Tank Man? Apparently the Chinese...
you'll get beautiful photographs of Tiananmen Square.
Yeah, the government has successfully wiped Tank Man from the internet in China.
Well, he's not relevant. See, that's the thing. He's no longer relevant. And
right.
So...
As determined by the government. Well, I see the same thing happening in the U.S., and I know that sounds kind of weird, like crazy. Well, I guess it happened in Europe. It hasn't happened in the U.S. It doesn't.
I don't think it sounds crazy at all. I can't think of any other use for this rule.
Yeah, other than privately censoring things that the government doesn't like.
If somebody is searching for something, it is de facto relevant. Like, a search engine is nothing except a tool that a person uses to find what they're looking for. So if they're searching for it, it's relevant. The only reason you would ever want to use this tool is if you wanted people to not find what they were looking for.
Wow, exactly. Point well made, Davi. That's exactly the point. And why would that man who says that his bankruptcy is irrelevant claim the right to have that forgotten, as if the article about him should be taken down? That's unclear to me too. Like, does this affect news agencies as well?
No, they said the article didn't have to be taken down.
So the article can stay up, but the link to it can't exist anymore.
Right.
So you can have the article at yahoo.com, but you've got to use the search bar in Yahoo and know that this article existed 16 years ago. Very strange. This could change everything we know about search engines and using the internet. It could change the future of accountability.
We need a ministry of relevance.
That's right. That's what's coming. That's what's next. Coming up on Peace News Now, Christian Coalition... Oh, darn. I missed that. I missed that outro completely. But the Christian Coalition is having a double standard for Tebow and Michael Sam, which I think is excellent. I don't know. You know about this issue with Michael Sam? He's gay,
Yeah.
you know. He's the gay football player. Oh my God.
Oh.
And
Okay.
he kissed his boyfriend. So I don't know if you're up to speed on this story, but Michael Sam was one of the best players in football in like the college whatever league. And everyone was expecting he was going to be one of the first picked for the draft for the NFL, where all the teams get to choose what players they want. Very much like school, where you say like, "Oh, I want Davi," and then you just go down the line and choose the best people, and then you end up with the worst at the end. Well, he was chosen out of like 260 people. He was chosen 8th to last, even though he was one of the best players. No question, like objectively, all his stats, everyone was expecting he was going to be one of the best. So why was he chosen last and almost not chosen at all? It seemed to be because ESPN had these video cameras in the homes of these players, and when they got their phone call of like, "Oh, you got picked for our team, will you be on the St. Louis Rams or whatever?" Then there was a video playing live right to ESPN of like, the tears, the emotion, hugging the family, kissing the boyfriend. I'm like, this is...
Oh, okay, that was the problem.
Yeah, so it was just like, were these teams intentionally not choosing the player that they wanted because they were afraid that he was going to kiss his boyfriend when he got selected, like all the other people were? Other people kiss their wives and their girlfriends. So, like, yeah, he kissed his boyfriend when he...
Did they not want the gay player on the team? I mean, there have been plenty of players who have said that they're not comfortable with that.
Yeah, they might not want him on the team. Well, there's a statement that's being made by him being chosen so close to last. And I shouldn't laugh because he's brave to do this. I just think it's remarkable that it's even brave. It's considered brave in 2014 to be out. Like, can we get over this, please? It's so old.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God, gay people exist. Can we stop freaking out about it? Like, it's not a...
This is a short little story, but it was the actor who plays Leonard on Big Bang Theory was asked why he's never clarified speculations that he's gay, and he said, "Because I never felt there was any need to defend myself from something there's nothing wrong with being."
Can you repeat that? Because I never felt there was... What?
I never felt the need to defend myself from accusations when there was nothing wrong with being that.
Oh, awesome. Okay, so he's just saying that, like, he might be gay, he might not... Ooh, we're getting a call. He might be gay, he might not, but it's not something that he feels he has to defend himself from because...
Yeah. Well, I think he's outed himself as straight, but the point is he's not enthusiastically squashing these rumors, right?
Sheldon is gay. The actor...
Oh, he is? Oh, Sheldon is gay. Leonard is not.
Oh, yeah, Leonard. Right, he seems gay also, but he might not be. Hey, Nathan, you're on the line.
I can call back if you're doing like just an interview show.
No, it's cool. You can join us. We're chatting. In fact, we're just coming...
I thought maybe you had it turned off or something.
Nah, you're here. All right, hang tight.
.lrn.fm. That's amp.lrn.fm.
Welcome back to Peace News Now. We are talking about peaceful resistance. You, of course, can call in, talk about the peaceful resistance that matters to you most. 443-424-8347. The number spells out Hi-Fi Civ Dis, as in civil disobedience. You can also Skype us at Peace News Now, like Nathan is doing, who is on the line. What's going on, Nathan?
Well, I had a question from the other segment where Davi was talking about the Milgram experiments. I remember from a PorcFest lecture that there are variations, if you will, different things where they change the conditions of the experiment. Like in one, people wouldn't obey if there was like another person in there who stood up and said, "I'm not going to go along with this." Do you remember that, Davi?
Yeah, most of the variations on the Milgram experiment were conducted in other countries, but yeah, there were group studies too.
Was that your question, Nathan?
Was that the question?
I can't. Was that Davi talking? I couldn't hear him.
Yeah, can you? I can hear me. It looks like I'm coming through. Can he hear me?
Yeah, he should be able to hear you. I don't know. I've got it all connected in a way. Well, maybe you can just repeat your answer, Davi. Sorry about that, Nathan.
I was saying, yeah, there were most of the iterations of the Milgram experiment were conducted in other countries, but there were absolutely group studies done with that experiment.
Yeah, so right. You heard that time, Nathan, right?
I can barely hear him. His
That's so
volume's
weird.
Low.
Okay. All right. Now I know that. I'll fix that during the
my
next break.
question was, I think that was one of the variations, but you mentioned one where the authority figure's legitimacy was undermined, and I was wondering if there was a variation on the experiment that involved that, and how exactly would you undermine the authority figure's legitimacy? Like, would
this was not the Milgram experiment. This was a different experiment on authority, and it was the title of the experiment was Power and Hypocrisy. I don't recall the psychologist's name off the top of my head. But I can probably find it for you over the next break. And essentially, that was a study where they were broken into groups, and the way that they manipulated the sense of power was they had them tell each other stories. So you were either put in a group where you told a story about feeling like you were in a position of authority, or you were put in a group where you told a story where you felt where you were in a position of subjugation, and then they tested your hypocrisy. And the way that they tested hypocrisy was they ranked how much you were willing to commit various cheats at these games and how harshly you criticized others for cheating at these games. And in the last version of the experiment, they included a group where they had them tell a story where they were in a position of authority they felt that they didn't deserve. And that group exhibited the opposite response to the second part of the test, meaning they were people who in legitimate authority cheated more than other people but were harsher on others for cheating, and the people who were put into the illegitimate authority group were more harsh on themselves, cheated less, and were more lenient on others for cheating. And so the theory from this scientist or this psychologist was that if you included that variable in the other experiments, that you would see the same reversal.
Wow, that's an amazing statement. It really seems to me, Davi, that the legitimacy and of authority is only existing in people's minds, and when they have a clear view about that authority and whether or not it's legitimate, then they act morally.
Well, maybe that's why I'm afraid of Google search results coming up that don't cast a good light on them.
Right, and that was one of the things that they mentioned in the conclusion to the experiment was the psychologist said, look, if you, instead of attacking power directly, if you attack the legitimacy of those in power, you could actually reverse their bad behavior and bring them back to their stated values.
That's really what striking the root is all about, isn't it? It's not attacking the politicians themselves. It's attacking the chairs that they sit in and saying, like, look, there should exist no thrones from which these leaders order us around. It's the throne itself. It's the seat of power that one has a problem with. It's illegitimate. Mm-hmm. Any other thoughts that you want to share, Nathan?
Yeah, quickly on the Google story, it opens a can of worms, like who's going to enforce this, and will Google be forced to identify people? Like, how is Google going to know that if you make a complaint that you're the identity of the person who has the material, and is it going to be a government agency or a private agency? Basically, they're asking Google to kind of, I guess, act as the government in this case. And even if Google tried to do this, I don't see how they could even do it.
I don't see how they could do it either, which is amazing because they're waving their magic government wand saying, make what we want to come true happen, Google. You seem to be so good at doing everything else. But I don't think these old guys in stuffy suits sitting in Washington realize, or in this case, the European Union buildings, I don't think they realize how much work that would be for Google to do. Because they're like, well, it only affects Europe, so it should only be part of the work. No, Google has to do all of the work of the censorship and then apply that to only IP addresses that are coming out of Europe and create this new department of who knows how many employees are going to have to sift through all of these millions of requests by European citizens, some of whom probably won't exist, might die in the meantime of the request, might take their request back. How are they going to process all these? Are they even going to attempt to comply? It leaves a lot of open questions.
Well, they haven't they complied in the past with requests from the Chinese government to do things like that, like censoring email?
Yes, they have complied with every request from governments, from what I understand. However, they do make a list of how many requests they get from each government around the world, and they make that information publicly available. It's my understanding, at least. They still do that.
I wonder if China is at the top of that list.
No, the United States is at the top of that list.
Oh, of course. I figured it's like when you ask who has the most people in prison, people are going to say China or North Korea, but of course the U.S. is top of the list.
That's right. Yeah, it's a surprising statistic. Here, I'll just do a quick Google search now and see if I can find the answer to how many Google takedown requests happen from each government, from the United States versus the rest.
So a question for Davi. In the past, sometimes I do get search results that seem irrelevant because they're out of date. Does that ever happen to you? Like I'll search for something and I'll get an article from 5 years ago when really what I wanted something in the last year or 24 hours, and then I have to start, adding those kind of criteria to the search. Like must be within the last.
I mean, absolutely. And then sometimes even like it happens that I don't actually know the search terms that I need to be looking for to find what I want. So I have to sort of do these meta searches to narrow down what it is I'm looking for.
Most frustrating because you don't.
I mean, like, here's the thing: Google's job, like Google is a market institution which is exceptional at giving you relevant information based on your question.
One person at a time. Sorry, I imagine you both couldn't hear each other. So first.
Sorry, what was that?
You were both talking over each other briefly. So if you could just repeat your point, Davi.
Oh, I was saying that. Like Google has emerged. Google is an example of how the market provides relevant information. Their whole business model is we've devised these very complex algorithms and we have teams of experts working on them all of the time so that our very simple tool provides the most relevant data to what your query is at any given moment. And the sort of bureaucratic answer is, well, we have a committee of people who are going to make unreasonable demands about what we think is and isn't relevant. Like Google is the market example of what determines relevance for you, if that makes sense. Like they're in the business of satisfying you as a searcher, even if it's not perfect.
Hey, do you have more that you want to say on this topic, Nathan? You can hang with us. If you've got thoughts that you want to share with the rest of the audience, you can call in, hi-fi civ dis, or Skype us, Peace News Now. We're talking about Google and all of these takedown requests. Is it even possible to comply? More when PNN returns. Thanks for calling in, Nathan. Sorry, there's a little bit of difficulty. I'm going to try and pump up the volumes.
Is Davi not on Skype? Is that the problem?
I'm on Google Plus. I'm in the Google Hangout.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought maybe Davi was on Skype somehow and I just didn't see him or something like that.
No, Davi is on the Google Hangout, as most co-hosts are normally. This is the normal setup for the show, and I haven't had any problems with it in the past. Is there a way you could pump up your volume on your computer, or is it all the way up?
I probably could, but then you'd be screaming in my ear. But okay, that's all the way up.
Okay, and Davi, could you say a few words?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Still sound like you're in a barrel. Maybe it's something wrong with my Skype. I don't know.
Well,
maybe it's my mic. That's a possibility, right?
No.
I mean, Derek J is a lot louder, but you're the same.
Huh. Okay. Well, I'm looking at my levels when I speak, and they're hitting about the 10 mark, which is pretty low on the scale of sounds. Now, Davi, when you speak, it goes up to like 0, which is pretty high, almost peaking. So your sound is up quite a bit higher than mine. And for Nathan to be hearing us at that level means that something I think is not hooked up right in my board. That's all I can think is that I've hooked up the board wrong. And Nathan, this problem won't exist next week because I'll be in Keene and I'll have Ian Freeman set up my board professionally, so he'll know what to do.
Well, you see, it's weird. I can still hear Dobby, but he's just really low. I don't know what would cause that.
Just something not being set up right in my board, probably. Either that or maybe my selections for, like, I don't know if you know how many different selections there are for like audio inputs and outputs on Skype when you are working with a board and multiple computers. Like, I just have so many different buttons to click. I've probably just clicked the wrong one. So
Well,
I apologize, but if we can just persist.
Okay, well, I'll try not to stay on too long. I just had one more thought about the Google thing.
Yeah, please do. And you sound good. Everyone on this end, like, I'm recording this, and y'all sound good. So
okay, so it's just Davi and me can't hear each other.
Yeah, so just sorry about you two and your miscommunication a little bit, but y'all sound.
I think the sound cuts out when we talk over each other too, because I can't hear him if I'm talking.
Oh yeah, that's an important point. Google Plus mutes your guests. Like, if you're speaking, Davi, it's gonna mute me a bit. Not completely, but it'll suppress the volume. So, yeah, that would make it hard for you two to hear each other. Makes sense.
I thought Skype did something similar because I've been in group Skype calls before on Cody's show, and I remember sometimes where I remember responding a lot, like with yes or and none of those made it to the final cut. So I assumed Skype was blocking me when he's talking and vice versa.
Yes, Skype does do that. There is a preference that you can set on your Skype for continuous talk, I believe, so that when you're in a, I don't know if you can override that effect. Anyway, let's get ready. We got 20 seconds and we're coming up on the next final segment. So you've got your thoughts ready to share, Nathan, and checking in with the chat room. Close this show out. Do it right.
And a vain Galapagos tortoise tries to pass for 90.
This is the Onion News Network. You can watch the LRN Studio Cam and chat with other listeners anytime at cam.lrn.fm. That's cam.lrn.fm.
All right. Well, the government is constantly asking Google to take down information. Google just reported a 68% spike in government censorship requests just a few months ago, saying that governments around the world are trying to censor more online content than ever, according to Google's latest transparency report on government takedown requests. This is a report that it publishes, I believe, either every quarter or every year. So when compared to its last report, Google received 68% more requests to remove content in the first half of 2013. In total, the company received 3,846 requests to remove almost 25,000 pieces of content, but the company only accepted 1/3 of those requests. That's interesting. So governments can make requests to take down information, but looks like Google has the final say. I've got some charts to share with you as well that break down the report by government as well as by reason. And we also have a question from Nathan, a caller on the line on Skype, who we'll get to in just a minute. But check out these charts. I don't wonder if you can see here, Davi. We've got the first chart is about who's making these requests and are they fulfilled. It looks like the most frequently complied with orders come from courts, followed by general, and then finally police, which I find interesting that the ones that Google complies with the least are the ones made by police. And that has me wondering if perhaps the reason is that they're more frivolous, less important claims, things that Google thinks are just not legitimate. And then court orders, how can they refuse? I would imagine those. Although it's not at 100%, so I guess even with court orders, they're allowed to not comply. Now, when broken down by reason, oh no, here, let's see. When broken down by reason, we get a completely different view. Oh no, it was here just a second ago. I swear that really weird that there's some censorship that happened like live. There was a chart here a second ago that listed compliance by reason, and now it no longer does. Oh, here we
probably wasn't relevant.
Yeah, it wasn't relevant. No, here it is. By request. When I search by request, it says that most of the requests come from police, and that most of the reason by far, like you can see this chart here, is defamation. It's way at the top of this chart. It's the one followed by privacy and security, and then adult content. And it even breaks down like which is a court order and which is coming from police. Police are saying it's more adult content and privacy security related stuff, and courts are saying it's about defamation. So just some interesting background information while we're talking about this. I think it's relevant. Now, Nathan, you had a question regarding the Google censorship. Go ahead with your thoughts.
Oh yeah, so I have a question and a comment. Let's assume that the Spanish lawyer, his complaints are completely legitimate, his business is up and running, and it's fine. And this whole bankruptcy thing from 16 years ago, it's no longer, it doesn't affect who he is as a person right now. People change and circumstances change. What, Davi, do you think he can do or should be able to do to get these search results changed, like outside of the government? Because, if as a lawyer, I'm sure his reputation.
There are services you can hire. There are reputation defending services. I looked into this at one point because there was some anti-Muslim sites were circulating this sort of false accusation that I had conspired to murder this girl, and so I looked into and it was at the same time that I was applying for a job, and so it was like if somebody went and Googled my name, the first stories would come up were like Islamist blogger threatens girl, whatever. And they're pretty expensive. It didn't turn out to be something I could afford, but if he's a lawyer and it's really important to his valuable business, there are absolutely services that are designed to fill. They sort of game Google's search engine, and they fill up the first page with positive reviews or positive whatever it is that you want to come up when you search for that particular word. And so yeah, you can pay for it.
That's interesting and also maybe a little scary. I didn't know you could do that.
Why do you say it's scary, Nathan?
Well, because then it presents the opposite problem that someone could pay to have bad things that are about their past expunged from the Google page if it's actually legitimate. Like maybe this lawyer didn't have the bankruptcy 16 years ago. Maybe it was 6 years ago or 6 months ago, in which case it might still be relevant.
Yeah, but that's also not going to be the only place that you go to search for records. If his bankruptcy is relevant to you for an important financial decision, if you're a bank or something, or if you're a partner of his, you're going to look into more than just his Google search. You're going to look at his own records, right?
Well, that's a good point, and that leads me to my comment, which is I think even though it's true Google is a private entity, there's still kind of a wrinkle, I guess, or something that's I guess as a libertarian I'm uncomfortable with, and that's like you said, the 90% market share. It doesn't mean that they're like the government, but I guess my analysis is that monopoly, even if it's a natural or voluntary monopoly, is still kind of it's unstable. It seems like it could devolve into a kind of government. Like because Google is so big, it makes it easy for the government to come after them and say, okay, well, we want you to do this, this, and this, just like with the Chinese situation.
But the thing is, Google's dominance in the market as a search engine, first off, it is challenged from time to time. Like, there are always these sort of new web pages that come out. Like, Bing is relatively new, and Bing has a huge market share right now. But also people who are unhappy with Google and unhappy with their politics and privacy, they create things like Start Page. So, I mean, the point of it being a market, like quote-unquote monopoly versus a government monopoly, is that market monopolies require satisfying their users. If the users are no longer satisfied, they don't enjoy that market share anymore.
Those are very good points, Davi. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate your thoughts and your call, Nathan. Feel free to call in again. We'll be live again next Tuesday, and we'll have time for more calls. There's still a couple of minutes in which you can call, but I just want to really quickly run through some other important peaceful resistance news that if we didn't get this in, we would be remiss.
Investigation into the suspected bribery
Sometimes
case of multinational
on
funds.
live shows, ads start playing unintentionally. Bitcoin integration with PayPal being, quote, actively considered, says eBay CEO. Huge news. Davi, you must be excited that John Donahue, the CEO of e-commerce giant eBay, said he is actively considering an integration of popular digital currency, Bitcoin, with the company's payment process services, PayPal.
Yeah, I think this is good news. I miss BitMint. Did you ever use BitMint?
Yeah, I did. I like them.
And since BitMint went out of business, I haven't seen any online auction site or online sort of, commercial listing site for Bitcoin. So it would be fun if eBay took it. I think that it would challenge the relationship between eBay and PayPal if eBay adopted Bitcoin as a payment system. But it would still be great news.
Other headlines of import. Harvard mandates power and privilege training. Feds release hundreds of murderers and rapists. And Hillary supporters failed to list a single achievement. This one we have to close on, Davi, because this is just too hilarious. Have you seen this? Do you know what I'm
Hillary video? No, I haven't.
Oh my God, this is awesome. And this is exactly what I like to focus on doing as part of peaceful resistance, is attacking the legitimacy of these people and making entertaining media to show how ridiculous it is to bow to the orders of these authoritarians. This is a video in which a conservative host is interviewing students at George Washington University regarding their selection for next president, Hillary Clinton, and what are their achievements that they can name. There aren't any.
I'm Michelle Fields for PJTV, and we're out here at George Washington University asking young Hillary Clinton supporters what they think her biggest accomplishment was as Secretary of State.
I think it'd be really cool to have a woman president, but she'd have to overcome some issues before getting there.
Definitely when you think about the fact that we already have had our first African-American president, I think this is really an era of progression in American politics. And
Oh no, we can't close on that. Here, let me show you her asking what's the best achievement. We'll close on that.
I'm not that into politics.
Oh, I'm not that into politics. I really don't know. Can't list a single achievement, but we want Hillary to win. What's that all about? Well, that does it for this episode of Peace News Now. You'll have to catch us Tuesday, peacenewsnow.com. Thanks, Davi.
No problem.
Wow, that was such a rush. The whole episode felt completely rushed. But that was a lot of fun. Free Talk Live is coming up next. Thanks to everyone in the chat room for participating. I'll have all the links to the show topics that we talked about, plus Davi's text that he sent to FedEx, and the quote from John Galecki, Leonard, on The Big Bang Theory about being called gay or not gay. Why that's not offensive to him. So anyway, I got to run, but that was a lot of fun, Davi. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, awesome. I'll talk to you later, Derek.
Yeah, I'll catch you next time when I'm in Keene.
Peace.